I never thought I'd be standing in a lawyer's office at 25, listening to the reading of my grandfather's will, only to discover that my inheritance came with strings attached that would unravel the darkest secret our family had been hiding for 13 years. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how a fortune, a condition, and one terrible birthday changed everything I thought I knew about my family. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, cleared his throat and looked at me over his reading glasses. His expression was uncomfortable, like he knew what was coming would hurt. And God, he had no idea how right he was. He said that my grandfather, William Hayes, had left me his entire estate. $3 million, the house in Connecticut, everything. My heart should have soared, but instead I felt this creeping dread in my stomach, because there was a pause. A long, heavy pause that told me something was coming. Then Mr. Peterson read the condition. To receive her inheritance, Emma must publicly forgive Marcus Sullivan and allow him back into the family. She must do this in writing, witnessed, and notarized within 60 days of my death. If she refuses, the entire estate goes to charity. I felt the blood drain from my face. Marcus Sullivan, my stepfather, the man who vanished on my 12th birthday and destroyed my mother in the process. My hands started shaking. After all these years, after everything that happened, Grandpa wanted me to forgive him. The man I'd spent 13 years hating with every fiber of my being. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. I couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was closing in on me. I said I needed air and practically ran out of that office. My best friend Jenna was waiting in the lobby, and when she saw my face, she knew something was terribly wrong. She asked what happened, and I couldn't even form the words at first. Finally, I managed to tell her, $3 million, but only if I forgive the man who ruined my childhood. Jenna knew the story, or at least she thought she did. Everyone thought they knew what happened on my 12th birthday, but they didn't. Not really. Not the whole truth. Let me take you back to that day. June 15th, 13 years ago, I was turning 12, and I was so excited I could barely sleep the night before. Marcus had promised me the best birthday party ever. He'd been my stepfather for 2 years at that point, and honestly, I loved him. He wasn't trying to replace my real dad who died when I was 6. He was just Marcus, funny and kind, always making my mom smile again after years of sadness. He'd planned everything. A pool party with all my friends. A huge cake shaped like a castle. My favorite band playing in the backyard. Well, okay, not my actual favorite band, but a really good cover band that played all their songs. Still, for a 12-year-old in suburban Connecticut, it was basically a dream come true. The morning of my birthday, I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Marcus always made birthday pancakes shaped like the number you were turning. I ran downstairs in my pajamas, and there he was in the kitchen, spatula in hand, grinning at me. He said happy birthday to his favorite almost teenager and slid a plate of perfectly shaped number 1-2 pancakes in front of me. My mom was there too, smiling, drinking her coffee. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly how it should be. Marcus told me to eat up because we had a big day ahead. The party started at 2, but he said he had a special surprise for me first. Just the two of us. I remember my mom giving him this look. I didn't understand it then. It was quick, just a flash of something in her eyes. Worry, maybe? Fear? I was too excited to really notice. After breakfast, Marcus said we needed to run an errand before the party. He was being mysterious about it, which made me even more excited. I thought maybe he was taking me to pick up some amazing present he'd hidden somewhere. We got in his car, just the two of us, and started driving. I kept asking where we were going, and he kept saying it was a surprise. He seemed nervous, though. His hands were tight on the steering wheel, and he kept checking the rearview mirror. I asked if he was okay, and he smiled at me, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. He said he was fine, just wanted to make sure everything was perfect for my special day. We drove for about 20 minutes, heading toward the downtown area. Then he pulled into the parking lot of the police station. My stomach dropped. Even at 12, I knew that wasn't normal. That wasn't a birthday surprise. I asked why we were at the police station, and Marcus turned to me. His face was pale, and I could see his hands shaking. He said he needed to tell me something and that he was sorry. So sorry. Then he told me to go inside and ask for Detective Morrison. He said to tell them that Marcus Sullivan was outside and ready to turn himself in. I didn't understand. Turn himself in for what? I started crying, asking what was happening. Why was he scaring me on my birthday? Marcus had tears running down his face. He said he loved me and my mom more than anything in the world. That the last 2 years had been the happiest of his life. But he'd done something terrible before he met us, and he couldn't run from it anymore. He told me to go inside. Now, I was sobbing, begging him to come with me to explain what was happening. But he just kept saying to go inside, please, Emma, just go inside, so I did. I stumbled out of that car and ran into the police station, crying so hard I could barely breathe. I asked for Detective Morrison, just like Marcus told me to, and that was the last time I saw my stepfather. The police rushed outside, but Marcus was gone. He'd driven away the second I went through those doors. There was a manhunt. It was all over the news. Marcus Sullivan, wanted for embezzlement and fraud. He'd stolen over $2 million from his previous employer before moving to Connecticut and starting a new life under a slightly modified identity. My 12th birthday party never happened. Instead, our house was swarmed with police and reporters. My friends' parents called to say their kids couldn't come. My mom locked herself in her bedroom and didn't come out for 3 days, and me. I spent my 12th birthday being interviewed by police, trying to remember every detail of every conversation I'd ever had with Marcus, wondering if the man I'd loved like a father had just been using us as cover the whole time. The worst part was the confusion. Because Marcus had turned himself in, right? That's what he told me to do. Tell them he was ready to surrender. But then he ran. He disappeared completely. The police never found him. For years, I tortured myself trying to understand. Why bring me to the police station if he was just going to run? Why not just disappear that morning without the drama? Why involve me at all? My mom never recovered. She'd lost one husband to cancer and another to crime. She stopped trusting people, stopped trusting herself. She'd look at me sometimes with this expression of pure guilt, like she'd failed to protect me from him. She died 4 years ago, breast cancer. And she died still believing that Marcus had used us, manipulated us, and broken our hearts without a second thought. My grandfather, her father, watched his daughter waste away, first emotionally and then physically. He blamed Marcus for all of it. We all did, so you can imagine how I felt, standing in that lawyer's office, being told I had to forgive the man who destroyed my family to get my inheritance. I went home that day and didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. Jenna kept calling, texting, checking on me. She said $3 million was life-changing money. That maybe I should at least think about it. But how do you forgive someone for ruining your childhood, for breaking your mother's heart, for making you question every happy memory you had? I kept asking myself what Grandpa was thinking. He hated Marcus. After everything happened, he was the one who hired private investigators to try to find him. He was the one who told me I was better off without that criminal in my life. Why would he want me to forgive him now on the 4th day? I finally called Mr. Peterson back. I asked if there was any explanation in the will, any letter, anything that explained why Grandpa would include such a cruel condition. There was a long pause on the phone. Then Mr. Peterson said there was one more thing. A sealed envelope that Grandpa had left with instructions that I should only receive it if I asked why. My heart was pounding as I drove back to his office. Mr. Peterson handed me a cream-colored envelope with my name written in Grandpa's shaky handwriting. I could tell he'd written it near the end, when his Parkinson's was getting bad. I sat in my car in the parking lot and opened it. My hands were shaking so badly I almost tore the letter. And what I read changed everything. Emma, my dear girl. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're angry with me. I understand. But please read this whole letter before you make any decisions. There are things about that day, about Marcus, that you don't know. Things I couldn't tell you while your mother was alive because she made me promise. But now that we're both gone, you deserve the truth. Marcus didn't abandon you. He saved you. I had to stop reading. My vision was blurring with tears. What did that mean? How did running away and breaking our hearts save me? I kept reading. 3 weeks before your 12th birthday, Marcus came to me. He was terrified. He told me everything about his past, about the money he'd stolen, about the false identity. But he also told me why. Marcus's real name was Michael Sutton. 5 years before he met your mother, he worked as an accountant for a real estate development company in Boston. The company was owned by a man named Vincent Calabrese. Marcus discovered that Calabrese was using the company to launder money for organized crime. Millions of dollars flowing through fake properties and shell corporations. Marcus didn't know what to do. If he went to the police, he'd be killed. Calabrese had connections everywhere, including in law enforcement. But Marcus couldn't just ignore it either. He wasn't that kind of person, so he made copies of everything. Every transaction, every document, every piece of evidence. And then he stole $2 million from one of Calabrese's accounts and disappeared. His plan was to use the money to hide until he could figure out how to safely get the evidence to the FBI. But Calabrese's men found him within months. They almost killed him. He barely escaped with his life. That's when Marcus became Marcus Sullivan. New name, new identity, new life. He moved to Connecticut and tried to disappear. He never meant to fall in love. He never meant to become part of our family. But he met your mother, and for the first time in years, he felt human again. I'm crying now, sitting in my car, reading my dead grandfather's letter, and my whole world is turning upside down. The letter continued. When Marcus came to me 3 weeks before your birthday, he told me that Calabrese's men had found him. They'd tracked him somehow. He'd seen them watching the house, following your mother to work. Following you to school. He was panicking, Emma. He said he had to leave immediately, but he was terrified of what Calabrese would do to you and your mother to get to him. These weren't people who forgave and forgot. Marcus had a plan. He'd been in contact with the FBI for months, working up the courage to turn over his evidence. They'd agreed to put him in witness protection if he testified against Calabrese, but there was a problem. Witness protection meant disappearing completely. No contact with anyone from his old life. That included you and your mother. He came to me because he didn't know what to do. He loved you both so much, but staying meant putting you in danger. Leaving meant breaking your hearts. I told him he had to leave. I told him I would take care of you and your mother. And I made him promise me something. I made him promise that he would turn himself in for the embezzlement, that he would let the world think he was just a common criminal who ran away. Because if Calabrese thought Marcus was in prison or on the run for theft, he might leave you and your mother alone. But if he knew Marcus was working with the FBI, you'd be leverage, you'd be targets, Marcus agreed. But he couldn't just disappear without saying goodbye. He couldn't do that to you. So we came up with the plan together, the police station, telling you to go inside, making it look like he was turning himself in, then running. It gave you closure of a sort. It gave the police and the media a story to chase. And most importantly, it gave Calabrese a reason to stop watching your family. I had to put the letter down. I was hyperventilating. All these years. All this time I thought Marcus abandoned us. I thought he used us. But he was protecting us. The letter wasn't finished. Marcus went into witness protection that day. He testified against Calabrese and 15 other members of the organization. They're all in prison now, have been for years, but witness protection is forever. He couldn't contact you, couldn't explain, couldn't tell you the truth. I've been in contact with him, Emma. Through very careful, very secure channels. Your mother never knew. She made me promise when Marcus first disappeared that I would never speak his name again, that I would help her move on. And I kept that promise while she was alive, but Marcus never stopped asking about you. Never stopped wanting to know if you were okay. Every major moment in your life, I found a way to let him know. Your high school graduation, your college acceptance, your mother's diagnosis, her death. He grieved for her, Emma. He loved her until the day she died, even though he could never tell her. I'm leaving you this inheritance with this condition because I'm an old man trying to fix a terrible wrong. You spent 13 years hating a man who sacrificed everything to keep you safe. And he spent 13 years in a kind of prison of his own, cut off from the only family he ever loved, letting you hate him because it meant you were alive. Marcus is still in witness protection. But he's agreed to break protocol one time, if you're willing. If you can find it in your heart to forgive him, to understand why he did what he did, Mr. Peterson has instructions on how to arrange a meeting. The money isn't really about the money, sweetheart. It's about giving you a reason to hear the truth. To give Marcus a chance to explain in his own words. To give you both a chance to heal from wounds that never should have existed. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry for every year you spent hurting. But please, please consider forgiving him. Not for the inheritance, for yourself. For the little girl who loved her stepfather and never understood why he left. All my love, Grandpa. I sat in that car and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere I didn't even know existed. 13 years of anger and hurt and confusion just poured out of me. Marcus didn't abandon me. He saved me, and I'd hated him for it. I called Mr. Peterson right there from the parking lot. My voice was shaking so badly I could barely speak. I told him I wanted to meet Marcus. I wanted to hear it from him. I wanted to understand everything. Mr. Peterson said he'd make the arrangements. It would take a few weeks to set up safely. Even now, even with Calabrese in prison, there were protocols. Security measures. Marcus was still technically in witness protection. Those 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I kept rereading Grandpa's letter. I kept thinking about that day, about the look on Marcus's face when he told me to go into the police station. the tears in his eyes, the way his hands shook. He wasn't running from consequences. He was running to protect me. Jenna came over almost every day. She held me while I cried. She listened while I talked through every memory of Marcus, reframing them with this new information. The way he always checked the locks twice at night. The way he'd tense up when strangers approached us in public. The way he'd watch the street from the window sometimes, like he was looking for something. He wasn't paranoid. He was vigilant. He was trying to keep us safe while knowing that danger was circling closer every day. Finally, Mr. Peterson called. The meeting was arranged. A secure location in upstate New York. Just me and Marcus, with federal agents nearby for security. I drove up there on a Tuesday morning. It was raining, which felt appropriate somehow. The location was a small cabin in the woods, isolated and private. There were 2 black SUVs parked outside, and men in suits who checked my ID 3 times before letting me approach the door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I hadn't seen Marcus in 13 years. I didn't even know if I'd recognize him. A woman in a FBI jacket opened the cabin door and told me he was inside. She said I had 2 hours. That's all they could safely allow. I stepped inside, and there he was. Marcus looked older, of course. He was 49 now, his hair graying at the temples, but his eyes were the same. Kind and sad and so familiar. He stood up when he saw me, and I could see his hands shaking just like they had that day in the car. He said my name, just Emma, and his voice broke, and I ran to him. I just ran across that cabin and threw my arms around him and cried like I was 12 years old again. He held me and cried too, saying he was sorry over and over. I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to leave. We sat down on the couch and he told me everything. The whole story in his own words. How he discovered Calabrese's operation. How he tried to do the right thing and ended up a target. How he'd lived in fear for years until he met my mom and felt safe for the first time. He told me about seeing Calabrese's men outside our house. About the panic that set in when he realized they were watching me at school. He said he couldn't sleep for days, trying to figure out how to keep us safe. Marcus said the hardest thing he'd ever done was drive away from that police station. Knowing I was inside, confused and scared. Knowing he was breaking my heart. But also knowing that if he stayed, I might end up dead. He asked about my mom. Mr. Peterson had told him when she died, but he wanted to know about her life. Did she find happiness again? Did she ever forgive him? I had to tell him the truth, that she never got over it, that she died still believing he'd used her. And watching his face crumble when I said that was almost unbearable. But then I told him about Grandpa's letter. About how Grandpa had kept his secret, had protected all of us in his own way. About how even in death, Grandpa was trying to bring us back together. Marcus smiled through his tears. He said my grandfather was a good man. That their last conversation before he disappeared, Grandpa had hugged him and told him he understood. That he didn't blame him, that he'd make sure we were okay, and he had. Grandpa had taken care of us. He'd been there for every birthday, every holiday, every hard moment. He'd filled the gap Marcus left as best he could. We talked for the whole 2 hours. About everything. About my life, his life in witness protection, about the trial, about the years of silence. Marcus told me he'd wanted to reach out so many times. Every birthday, every Christmas, he'd think about calling, about writing, about finding some way to let me know he still cared. But he couldn't, because even one contact could potentially put me at risk. Could give Calabrese's associates a way to find him. So he stayed silent and hated himself for it. I told him I forgave him. Not for the inheritance, though that was life-changing and I was grateful, but because I understood now. He'd made an impossible choice, and he'd chosen my safety over his own happiness. How could I not forgive that? Marcus asked if he could hug me again before I left. So we stood there in that cabin, holding each other, and it felt like something broken inside me was finally healing. As I was leaving, Marcus said one more thing. He said that my mom loved me more than anything in the world, that even though she died believing he'd betrayed her, she never once let that change how she loved me. That she was the strongest person he'd ever known, and he was right. My mom had been broken by what happened, but she never let it break me. She still showed up for every school event, still made my favorite meals, still tucked me in at night even when I was too old for it. She loved me through her pain, and that was its own kind of heroism. I drove home in a daze. The rain had stopped, and the sun was breaking through the clouds. It felt symbolic, like the universe was trying to tell me something. The next week I went back to Mr. Peterson's office and signed the forgiveness document. It wasn't hard. I meant every word. Marcus Sullivan or Michael Sutton or whatever his name was had my complete forgiveness. He'd earned it 13 years ago when he drove away from that police station with tears streaming down his face. The inheritance was processed. $3 million, the house in Connecticut, all of it mine. But the real inheritance was the truth, the understanding, the closure. I used some of the money to set up a foundation in my mom's name. It helps families affected by organized crime, provides counseling and support. It felt right, using money from Grandpa to help people dealing with the same kind of trauma we'd experienced. I also bought a new house. Nothing too fancy, but it's mine. And in the living room, I have 2 photos on the mantel. One of my mom, smiling and beautiful, and one from my 11th birthday, the year before everything fell apart. It's me, my mom, and Marcus, all grinning at the camera, covered in cake frosting. For years, I couldn't look at pictures of Marcus. Now it's my favorite photo, because I can see the love in it. The real, genuine love of a family that existed, even if it was temporary. I've seen Marcus twice more since that first meeting. The FBI allows it occasionally, under strict security protocols. We talk on the phone sometimes too, through encrypted lines that I don't really understand but appreciate. He's still in witness protection. He'll probably be there for the rest of his life. But at least now we have a relationship again. It's not the same as it was. It can't be, but it's something. It's real. Marcus tells me stories about his new life. He can't share details about where he lives or what he does, but he talks about the small things, the books he's reading, the walks he takes. He's learning to paint, which makes me smile because he was always terrible at art, and I tell him about my life. About Jenna and her new baby. About my job at the marketing firm. About the guy I've been dating, though I'm taking it slow because trust doesn't come easy to me. Marcus understands that better than anyone. Sometimes I think about how different my life would have been if Marcus had never left, if Calabrese had never found him, if he'd been able to stay and be my stepfather and watch me grow up. But then I think about the alternative. About what might have happened if he'd stayed and Calabrese's men had come for him. About the violence that could have touched our family. About the very real possibility that I might not have made it to 13, let alone 25. Marcus saved my life by breaking my heart. And now that I understand that, I can finally let go of the anger I've carried for so long. My grandfather's twisted inheritance condition wasn't cruel. It was a final act of love from a man who knew his daughter and granddaughter had suffered enough, who wanted to give us both peace, even if he wouldn't be there to see it. I visit Grandpa's grave every month now. I tell him about seeing Marcus, about the foundation, about how I'm finally happy in a way I haven't been since I was 11 years old, and I thank him for keeping Marcus's secret, for taking care of us, for loving us enough to tell me the truth, even from beyond the grave. The darkest secret our family was hiding wasn't that Marcus was a criminal. It was that he was a hero, and we'd spent 13 years treating him like a villain. But secrets don't stay buried forever. Sometimes they come out in lawyers' offices and sealed letters. Sometimes they come out in tearful reunions in cabins in the woods. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, those secrets set you free. I'm Emma Hayes, and I forgave my stepfather. Not for $3 million, though I won't pretend that didn't help. I forgave him because he deserved it, because he sacrificed everything for me, because love isn't just about staying. Sometimes love is about leaving, even when it destroys you to do it. That's the truth that left me speechless. That's the answer to why he vanished on my 12th birthday. He didn't vanish. He saved me. And now, finally, I can save him back by giving him the one thing he's wanted for 13 years, my forgiveness. My understanding, my love, and you know what? That's worth more than any inheritance could ever be.